Hello there. Today I'm going to ask you, are you gaslighting yourself? Now, the reason I ask is because this can be a big blind spot for a lot of us, especially if we are empathic individuals or we are highly sensitive people. For most of my life, I was gaslighting myself and I did a very good job of it. And I didn't understand that there is a difference between someone else's emotions and our own emotions. They became one big blob of enmeshment, and I took on everyone else's stuff thinking it was my own, and then I berated myself for feeling certain energies and emotions in my life. Now that is a lot to unpack there, so allow me to do that today. Very briefly, I'm going to go into why we need to recognize what gaslighting is in our lives and how we can stop doing it so that we can find a layer of clarity and freedom and sovereignty that we did not have before. And this is all part of the hero's journey, awakening to higher levels of consciousness. So firstly, gaslighting is something I experienced in my life for a long time. And often the origins of gaslighting are simply learned behavior from our primary caregivers. When we're kids, most of us still were brought up in a time when our parents were told to socialize us, to shape us into particular types of humans that would abide by society's rules and fit in and not make waves. And so we were socialized and we were told which emotions are appropriate and which emotions are not appropriate. And the emotions that were not appropriate, obviously anger, sadness, grief, fear, frustration, shame, guilt, you get the idea. All of these emotions we were told were bad. And if we expressed any of these energies as a child, we were quickly reprimanded and we were told no. And we were potentially disciplined and berated for expressing and displaying these releases of energy. And so we learned very quickly what was right and what was wrong, and what would allow us to be accepted in society and what would allow us to be loved. And of course, this is the big problem, isn't it? We all need love. But we learned that in order to be loved, we had to repress all of those negative emotions in our lives. And so as very amazing minds that we have, our minds adapted and created neural circuitry and created programming to ensure that we were successfully socialized. And now there's a whole nother group of people that have been born into our world now, the autistic spectrum, and people on the spectrum are now proving no more socializing. This process is outdated and must change. And that's a whole nother topic, obviously, but something very important to recognize. We got to stop this socializing. We got to accept that we're all diverse and we are all beautiful in our own unique way. We don't need labels to eventually we'll get to this point where we go, okay, the labels are getting ridiculous. Let's just accept each other for our own unique way of being. That's another talk as well. But what we find is that we were empathic individuals when we were children, and we learned this process became too painful for a lot of us, these highly sensitive people that we were. And we shut that part down and we stopped the ability to attune to the subtle realms. And so a lot of us today are hardened. We're no longer sensitive. We're no longer empathic. We shut that part down. But there are a lot of us who still are. And we've had to kind of adapt and move around this socializing process in society so that we feel we can still fit in. Now, why am I talking about empathic and sensitive people on this talk about gaslighting? Because we're picking up all of that guilt, anger, sadness, shame from others as well. And we're gaslighting ourselves if we haven't brought this conscious blind spot to our own attention in our own lives, how we gaslight ourselves from our own traumas and shadows, we're also gaslighting ourselves when we're picking up on others' energies. Can you imagine how much confusion and drain this is on us? You know, no wonder that we shut down or we hide away or we isolate. It's just a little too much sometimes. So what we're learning as we become conscious on this journey is we need to start to recognize when it's our stuff or someone else's. So as we move into adulthood, we've learned how to be really good at repressing emotions because we judge them as bad, because that's how our parents taught us. And now as an adult, we continue that process that our parents taught us. We become the parent and we become really good at gaslighting ourselves, telling ourselves, no, do not feel sad or angry. That's inappropriate. Or you are not feeling sad or angry, which is really the essence of gaslighting, is telling ourselves that what we're feeling isn't true. It's a figment of our imagination. So you can see why this is going to cause us a problem. If we're seriously wanting to work on ourselves and heal our shadows, how are we supposed to do that if we're not even identifying shadows within us? And we're gaslighting ourselves and saying, no, 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 they don't exist. Cheer up, soldier on. It doesn't work. We can't heal ourselves if we're not seeing what's there. So we need to deal with these root traumas, absolutely. Especially anger. This is a big one for us. If we were gaslit our whole lives, can you imagine how much suppressed anger would be inside of us? And some of the most sweetest, most beautiful, empathic beings out there have so much suppressed anger. I was one of them. So we need to deal with this. We need to stop telling ourselves that it doesn't matter. It does matter. Anger should not be judged as bad. It is a tool to help us see that we have a shadow that needs to be released. We have energy within us that's suppressed. We need to let it go and stop holding on to the stories behind it and just turn that into wisdom. So part of this process of recognizing gaslighting when we're doing it in our own lives is we need to ask spirit in stillness, in meditation. We need to ask for discernment. We need to ask for the eyes to see, the ears to hear, more than what we've been seeing and hearing for ourselves. We need to see when we are pushing down a shadow we don't want to deal with. We need to see when we're taking on someone else's shadows and calling it our own and then pushing that down, which just adds to the equation. So discernment, ask for that in your prayers, in your meditations, in your time with spirit, as you step out of the matrix each day, that special time. Now, a big part of the process for us, especially for empaths or highly sensitive people, is recognizing the throat chakra has been blocked. We've been afraid to speak up because of this very socialization process that we were brought into as children. Now that's changing, as you probably have noticed around you. We are beginning to open that energy center and say and express what we need to express, to release it, to let it go, to put ourselves in the position of empowerment, which is love. Full wholeness and integration involves that throat chakra being very open, being authentic, being real. And that means quirks and all, insanity, weirdness, whatever you want to label, how you've been different and masked that around others. Opening the throat chakra means no more pretending. You speak your truth. And so this is naturally going to be part of the process on this journey. Boundaries. Massive part of something we need to focus on if we are recognizing that we've been gaslighting ourselves. Boundaries are simply being able to say no or yes for what we want to bring into our life experience. And it takes an understanding that we deserve to be here. We deserve, like anyone else, to have this human experience authentically and with sovereignty, with our own way of doing it. And so boundaries means recognizing your own emotions. And so absolutely boundaries work is part of this process of rising to higher levels of consciousness. You have to recognize your emotional body. You have to start to focus on it to create health and holistic integration, emotions, your physical body and your mental body, mind, spirit, body. We have to bring that together. Now, only once you start to identify your own emotions will you be able to recognize when your boundaries are being crossed. Until then, it's just going to be some sort of uncomfortable feeling, but you just can't tell what that's about, so you push it down. We're going to get really good at saying no when we need to say no, out of honor for ourselves and other people. And that's a whole nother topic again to unpack there. We're going to learn to be who we are without trying to be someone else, your authentic self. And getting there, getting better at discernment is part of this process. Is this energy yours or is it someone else's? Are you doing this for someone else or are you doing it for you? Are you saying yes to someone else out of your own discomfort, or are you saying yes to someone else because it's genuinely how you want to serve them? Honoring yourself at the same time. There is no space for guilt as we rise to higher levels of understanding and consciousness. Guilt is a tool. It's an emotion to help us see something. It's not a state that we're permanently meant to be in. We might do something that brings up this feeling of guilt. And that feeling of guilt is supposed to be very temporary. It's supposed to be our conscious just telling us, our conscience telling us, okay, that didn't feel good. That doesn't feel in alignment. Let's not do that next time. So we make the decision in that moment with awareness. I'm not going to do that next time. Next time I'm going to do ABC instead. So guilt becomes this fleeting tool, and you release that energy and you learn and you grow in the process. So stop holding on to guilt for long periods of time. There's something seriously going on with gaslighting there. Often it's our parents who taught us to be guilty for our actions and behaviors. And that became part of the socialization process. You do not need to hold on to that anymore. You are a full-grown adult. You're in charge of your experience. Take full responsibility and let go of guilt. Do everything 100% out of your sovereign choice. So this is all the road to know thyself. And this is the noble journey. We need to know ourselves. How can we be of service to others if we don't know who we are? If we don't know our own dreams, desires, and our personal truths, our interests, our passions. Find these things out for yourself, not for anyone else. There's no more socializing to fit in. Just do you. So I know that's very cliche. And you'll learn that over time, it will be trial and error with boundaries as well. The big stuff will present itself first in your life, and you'll say no, and it will feel awful. That's part of learning boundaries. But then you'll become increasingly attuned to the more subtle around you and the subtle crossing of boundaries that people might try and cross. So this is all about full embodiment and integration, allowing your spirit to run the show for you. And you're going to learn how to communicate more delicately, with love, with diplomacy, with affection, with wisdom, discernment. This is all part of the process of letting go of gaslighting ourselves, forgetting about the socialization process, being true to ourselves, being sovereign, being authentic. Forgiving others is also part of this process. If you really want to be free in this experience, you can't hold on to grudges. Yes, your parents may have caused you all sorts of drama and trauma in your life, but it was there for a reason. All is here to serve us. We asked for this experience. And so don't for a second get caught up in that distraction and that delusion that there's someone else to blame here. No, It's all here to serve us. How do you want to look at this? Because that's the only empowering way. And that's the only way to really take full responsibility for how you want to have this life experience. And over time, as you continue to practice these things in your life, you will find that you shift to a higher timeline. And I'm sure you've heard of your higher self. Your higher self has your highest timeline embodied, and you can entrain and become part of that trajectory in your life. Simply ask, pray, meditate for this. Ask for this integration and alignment and flow so that you are embodying your highest timeline, the most optimum experience for your growth towards love, connection, and unity in this experience. And you'll find more flow, more happiness, more expansion, more capacity, more energy, more influence. You'll be less drained, way more energy. This is what I'm finding in my experience. You'll be aligned in your truth. You'll know who you are. This will come. So meet your own needs. And I did just complete a video recently about staying in your own lane. Yes, stay in your own lane. This is all part of it. Go within. Find your shadows. Stop gaslighting yourself. Time to move on from those paradigms. Time to bring out the blind spots into the light and take full responsibility and have an amazing human experience, being the best you. So I hope this has been inspirational or encouraging for you. It is important that we recognize that we may have been gaslighting ourselves for a long time, and it's so freeing once you realize that you can stop. You don't have to take that on anymore. You can be free, and it's very empowering. Have a beautiful day. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time.